Okay. Turn my volume down a little bit. So now we are live. We are live. We'll just get ourselves all hooked in here. Make sure my phone's turned off so we don't have any crazy stuff going on during this. Like do not disturb. A much underutilized function for a cell phone. Okay, so we got people joining in here. And let's turn that off. All righty. Okay. Let's see, it's 10:01 and here we are. And make sure my video is going. I can see comments, but we're not moving on my Facebook page, but that's all good. Okay, everybody, good morning and welcome to a very exciting Monday Morning Coffee and Compliance. And Lori, why is it so exciting?
Well, good morning. And first of all, we all need to show off our coffee. I've got the big one today. So
I'm taking it.
yeah.
Okay, I got the water.
All right, that's fine. You don't have to have coffee here. So, well, good morning, everybody. We do have a special show today because we've been getting a lot of questions on the clear cooperation policy, the coming soon, and the registered statuses. And Lisa and I are not the experts on that, although we're pretty well versed on it. So we decided to bring in the big guns from CRMLS to help us out, to help answer all of our questions. So we've got two guests, and I'll have them introduce themselves just a moment. But first, we have Sarah Trent Miranda, and she's the Director of Product Development and Training. So all of the cool tools we get, she's involved in many steps. And then we have Jeff Smetana, who is the Assistant General Counsel and Director of Compliance and Data Licensing, which sounds like he's more of a compliance nerd than probably we are, because of, that's a pretty
nerd
hefty title. I'm jealous. I tease because I'm jealous. So Sarah, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do at CRMLS, and welcome.
Thank you. The name calling's already kind of started early, so this is exciting. Product development is one hat that I wear, so I get to meet with a bunch of different vendors and evaluate existing product that we have and look at new product to bring to our CRMLS users. And then I also manage our training team, who is completely virtual. We've been virtual since April, so a pretty big shift for our team, but it's been going really great, and still just trying to keep the members educated and interested in what we've got going with our MLS systems and products. So we do training on both.
Awesome. Yeah, I've attended several of the trainings this season, and just really appreciate how well-versed the staff, how well-versed they are in the products, but also understanding what we do on this side of it and how we use the tools. So well done. So, and Jeff, sorry to tease, but again, I'm a compliance nerd, total compliance nerd. So welcome, and please tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lori. I love compliance nerds. I think the world needs more of them. So I think it's really cool that you guys are doing this, that you have a compliance dedicated discussion. That's got to be super helpful for your colleagues and your agents and your office in general. I think it's super worthwhile, and hopefully I can contribute to that. Yeah, as the Assistant General Counsel, I handle a lot of the in-house legal duties, along with Ed Zorn, our General Counsel. And then in the compliance department, I am the director, so I'm kind of in charge of enforcing the rules. So it makes me very popular, I'm sure. We do have a full staff of about 16 people, including some leadership and a dozen trained compliance analysts. When we do compliance here at CRMLS for our rules, we don't use robots. Every single report that comes into us is turned into a case, and a real human being looks at them and deals with them. So I get a little closer to the mic. I could try, sure. All right, how's that?
Good.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I handle the compliance department, and then I also handle the data licensing, which is people want to use the data that is in the system for various products and or websites and things like that. So I just kind of handle all the license applications that come through and make sure that everybody's playing by those rules, which are also in the rule set, the IDX rules and so on and so forth. So that's my job.
Awesome. Awesome. So now we didn't send this question as one of the prep questions, but as you were describing what you do, it may be helpful here to kind of give the audience an idea of where all of these rules come from, because I think there's a misunderstanding among agents. I hear it all the time. The MLS is so strict. So tell us, can you give us a little background on where these rules come from? Who gives these guidelines to us?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I love that question because it is sometimes misunderstood. And the shortest, easiest answer is that these rules and the way they're enforced comes from the real estate practitioners. Okay, so as you might know, the rules that we use are based upon the NAR model rules and the CAR model rules. So when we produce a rule set, they have to be approved by those bigger organizations of realtors. So as you can see that other realtors are generating the rules, and then we take them and a little bit we'll modify them for local practice and certain things that work with our systems. But any rule change or proposal comes up through the CRMLS Rules Committee, which is also made up of brokers and agents. So they're the ones making the decisions on the changes and the enforcement issues. And then ultimately, everything is approved or rejected or dealt with by the board of directors, who is, again, all practitioners. The CRMLS compliance department and staff sometimes contributes to the discussion, but we take our marching orders and we follow the rules that are put together by the agents and brokers that make up our membership.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that, because I know there's a lot of confusion on that. So awesome. So what can you tell us? What do we need to know about clear cooperation and the new statuses?
Well, that's a big question, all right, because there's lots and lots to know. I know that these three concepts, these things sort of rolled out all within a few months of each other. We did a lot of training in advance to try to not overwhelm folks. But I know at this point, you've got all three of them live and happening for you now, and so it can be very confusing. I think what you want to do to begin with is really keep the concepts as separate as you can. What I'm finding and what a lot of our trainers and presenters are finding is that the lines begin to blur between the topics. And so you'll get people asking questions about coming soon that are really questions about clear cooperation and things like that. So I would hope that we can help you guys avoid that blending together of the issues. So clear cooperation, think of it this way. It is a policy that only applies to listings that are not in the MLS yet, right? Because it is dealing with off MLS marketing. Coming soon are listings that are not off the MLS. They are in the MLS. They are live listings. So the clear cooperation policy and coming soon have very, very little to do with one another, right? So when you have a listing that's in coming soon, we'll get questions like, well, can I do public marketing on this? Well, the answer is yes, of course you can, because it's live in the MLS. You're asking about public marketing, which is a concept that falls under clear cooperation, right? And so I get to see a lot of those questions, and I get it. It can be sort of tricky. So clear cooperation deals directly with off MLS listings that are being marketed to the public. And as you might know, if that happens and it's reported, you're going to have 1 business day to put that listing. All right. You're going to have 1 business day to put that listing in the MLS for cooperation, which means you can put it into a coming soon status or an active status. Okay, so keeping those concepts separate is super important. Now with registered is, we're calling it a status, but guys, what it really is a process. Okay, so you've probably been familiar with over the years the exclusion process, the waiver process, right? So your seller says, we're not ready to go in the MLS. We would definitely want to sign this listing agreement, which you guys don't want to delay on either. But we've got repairs, or we've got a tenant that needs to be moved out or things like that. So we're just not ready to do that. Or they want you to sell this property differently, right? To sell it within your office and not put it on the MLS at all. Well, registered is replacing that former process whereby you would get an exclusion form filled out by your seller and signed, and then you would send that to us so that we would have a record of it. And by sending that in, you're satisfying Rule 7.8, which is the 2 business day submission rule. That rule's been around forever. So you guys know very well that within 2 business days of the effective date of your listing agreement, you have to make a choice. You're either going to put it in the MLS or you're going to exclude it. So again, for years, it was by the use of the exclusion form that you would send to us. Registered is replacing that process for excluding. You don't have to send us your CRMLS or whatever exclusion form you've been using. You can have it for your file. In certain circumstances, you definitely have to, but you don't need to send it to us. You can simply go into our system and register the listing. It's going to ask you for a few pieces of information. Once you do that, you're done. Okay, you can do whatever it is your seller is instructing you to do, and you've satisfied Rule 7.8. Now, registered is very closely related to the clear cooperation policy. Why? Going back to my original point, starting point is those listings are not live in the MLS. They're off the MLS. They're registered, but if you publicly market those, then you're going to be coming up against the clear cooperation policy. So I've taken just a few minutes here to try and outline the big topics or sort of the big points of these 3 concepts. So I can stop and take a couple questions, or I can move into a quick slideshow for you guys on registered, however you want to do it.
Why don't we go ahead and go into the slideshow, and then if you guys have questions, go ahead and throw them in the feed. I know Sarah's got access to the feed too, right, Sarah? So we have 2 of us here that can read the questions, but why don't you go ahead and just hit us with that slide presentation.
Sure, no problem. And yeah, I don't have access to the feed, so I'm going to rely on you guys that you're not making up the questions just to torment me. So
I don't know. Sarah and I have a lot of potential for that, so it could get good.
all right, so I'm going to put up my slideshow now. So can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so I don't want to bog down too much in this, but this is generally what you need to know about registered. So as I've earlier indicated, that prior to the 18th of this month, the old exclusion form process was in place. It's always been in place in order to satisfy Rule 7.8. Again, within those 2 business days, you needed to either file your exclusion form or put the listing in the MLS for cooperation by putting it in coming soon or active status. All right, and now you see on the slide, it's got 2B. That's because, again, if you're going to get up into the public marketing realm, then you need to be aware of that if you're not at the MLS yet. So the new process is very, very similar, except you don't have to send us the exclusion form, and you only need to go into the system and register the listing. And then basically all your workflow changes in that respect, but your business processes and the rest of your workflow should stay absolutely the same, or pretty much the same. Now, I've included this slide about public marketing because we're all going to learn to remember that if we're in registered, we're not on the MLS yet. We are off MLS at that point. Just like if we would have excluded a listing before the 18th, we were off the MLS. So the public marketing definition is important, right? Because your seller has said, hey, let's not go on the MLS yet. And maybe they want to market, right? So maybe some of you are having to have some tough conversations with your sellers and say, well, guys, listen, if we are going to do this, then we are going to go to the MLS. See, that's where the CCP comes in. So the definition of marketing is pretty much what you would expect it to be. I mean, intuitively, you know, any effort that you're making to communicate about a listing to sort of generate some interest or perhaps get a client is going to be marketing, right? It could be email blasts, flyers, putting it on your website, putting it on your social media, putting up a sign or having an open house or a showing is definitely marketing. And even meeting in person with a group of other agents or brokers or with some potential clients. That's all marketing, yeah, and that's what you guys do. So if you're going to engage in any of that conduct and you're not in the MLS yet, let's say you're just registered, you're going to have to inform your sellers of what the consequences of that will be, which means you got to go in the MLS within 1 business day. Now, public is the other part of the marketing definition, because we're talking about public marketing. The public is anybody who you're communicating with that is not a client of the firm, of the brokerage. So what we've done in our rule set is make it sort of a clear distinction that anybody who has signed an AD form with your brokerage in the last year is not considered the public. So if you have those folks on your client list, you can communicate with them about an off MLS listing and not be in violation of the policy. The other group of folks that are not the public are the other agents in your office. And I don't mean all the other agents in your franchise or whatever your larger real estate organization is. I mean the agents who, if you were to go on the DRE site for your broker, are listed under that broker. Okay, so that could mean one broker has 3 offices and all those agents are under that broker. Then therefore those agents wouldn't be the public, or it could just be one office. But keep in mind, it's specific to the broker license. And it's not specific to the broader company or the franchise or the big real estate company that you might be working for. So those are sort of the relationships that you have with clear cooperation and process. Now there's a follow-up or a sort of an associated question, like when do I use the CRMLS, right? When do I need it? When do I not need it? Well, we're not really in the business of telling you how to practice. You guys, you'll speak with your broker and figure out exactly how you want to use your CAR forms. But under our rule set, Rule 7.9.1, there is a time when you have to have a CRMLS. And again, you don't need to send it to us, which is when the seller instructs you not to market and not to put the listing in the MLS. What does that mean? Well, what it means for you in practice is that the new RLA, you might have seen it, it came out in June, has a little paragraph in there now under section 7 that has CRMLS specific language, right? There's a little box there on the screen. Paragraph D makes the specific, gives you the specific choices here for what your seller wants you to do with your listing. Our view on this is that according to our rule set, if you check 7D2, you should have a CRMLS. Just only for the purposes of our rules. If you want to have a CRMLS and you pick D1, that's totally up to you. But for our rule set, our enforcement issues, if there's ever a question, right, or an investigation or a report has to happen, we're going to want to know if you have a CRMLS, if you've checked D2. So that's about as practical as I can make it on that. So again, what you do with your seller, with your forms and your CR forms is up to you. But if you do check D2, we would prefer that you have a CRMLS if we have to ask for it. Any questions at this point?
We've got a few, but you can just keep going, and then we're just going to pitch ball.
I think I'd like to interject here, though, real quick, Jeff, regarding the conversation about the SELM. It's really important to understand that, yes, you should talk to your broker to find out if they do, in fact, still require the SELM for now. CAR's position on this is we updated the form before the statuses were available, so they don't have a definitive answer for us yet of whether to use it or not. I suspect that will be decided soon, and at the latest by any form change that would happen in December, which is our usual time that forms change. So check with your broker to see if they still want it. Some may. I would personally plan on still using it because there's additional language in the SELM that's not in the RLA. So at least for now, that's what my practice as a broker will be. But be sure that you check with your own broker to make sure that you're following what they require.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that the CRMLS has a lot more comprehensive, sort of the ability to get into the details with what your seller wants. They didn't put all that capability into the RLA. So we've just had to interpret what they've got in there. And again, just for you guys to memorize, for our rules, if you check 7D2, we would think you'd need a CRMLS if we ever ask for it.
Definitely.
Okay,
thank
so
you.
how do you register a listing in Matrix? Well, you go to your add edit, just like you're adding any other kind of listing. And you look at that first blue link says register listing contract. That's where you start. And from there, it's super easy. We're going to give you a few pieces of information. This slide is pointing out, again, the relationship between the RLA and the registration of the listing. So if you are using 7D1, right, let's go back to that. You can see there that there's a blank that allows you to put in the beginning of the marketing, right, the date for the beginning of the marketing. And what we're saying is it matches up with our system pretty nicely because we've got this start marketing date box in there. So if that's how your seller has instructed you, you can put that in there. If you checked paragraph 7D2, like I just talked about, there is no place for that start marketing date because the seller is saying don't market, right? So you're just going to go ahead and leave that blank. Once you're done with that and save it, it'll be saved into your incompletes. And if you want to look at those registers you've got, you go down to your My Listings and it will pull up your registers. Right? You can use the show the drop-down menu, and then you can edit it out from there. And then you will, sorry, let me just back up real quick. So that's the interface and matrix for you guys. It's pretty intuitive. If you get stuck in any way, call into CCD and they'll walk you through it. And I think after you do it maybe one time, you'll have the hang of it and you can teach others. So once you have your registered and you're ready to make a move to a coming soon or an active listing, you're just going to go in there to your modify listing and your add edit the registered listing. And when you've finished, you can save it again as incomplete if you're not ready, or submit the listing down here in the bottom as coming soon or active. I am not the tech guy who handles the matrix training, but I believe it's pretty clear and, like I said, pretty intuitive. And again, if you get bogged down, I know there's material on our website for that, and I know that CCD will be happy to walk you through it in real time with you in front of your computer, and they'll help you through that. All right, so moving on a little bit, you can see from this slide, this is a slide that we've been using for the last several months to sort of educate folks on the differences between these statuses. Now, I usually start on the right-hand side, and sort of, because it's something you guys are totally familiar with, the characteristics of an active listing. An active listing is fully live, fully welcome in the MLS and out there for the world to see. So you've got an active listing, you can market it however you want. The public marketing issue is not involved because it's in the MLS, and the whole public marketing discussion only comes in with listings that are not in the MLS. So I'm sorry I'm being redundant, but I just want you guys to know that that's the best way to start your thinking off clearly. It's fully displayed in the MLS, nothing hidden about it. Goes into your saved searches, your hot sheets, your carts. Commission is offered because you know that you're going to put something in the MLS to sell it. You have to have compensation in there. DOM, days on market, counts. Why? Because it's on the market. It's fully out there, and those days are ticking from the date it goes to an active status. It's fully distributed. What that means, guys, is it's getting sent out from the MLS to the third-party websites out there, whether it's a big syndication platform that your broker has opted into, for instance, Zillow, or it's also going out to the IDX websites, which the IDX feed is what powers the brokers and agents websites and a lot of other of our products and tools. So active, completely live, and going out everywhere. And showings are allowed because, again, there are no restrictions on active listing. So middle column, coming soon. What is the difference? Well, back up a second. What has been the rationale for requesting a coming soon status? Well, it's that scenario where you've got an eager seller, but a property that's maybe not quite ready, or they've got some other conflicts or something happening in their life where they're not ready to introduce the listing 100% to the world. Like I said, regarding even excluding, maybe you've got repairs, you need staging, you need painting, you need your photographer, you've got a tenant that needs to be relocated, you've got sellers who are going out of town, or someone's not feeling well or sick, like in these times, right? So in those instances, we've always gotten these requests where, like, well, why don't you give us a status where we can push it out there and generate some buzz, see what the interest level is like, but we'll hold back a little bit because it's not 100% ready to go. And in those circumstances, why don't you also allow days on market to not count? All right, well, so be it. We have it now, okay, for you. Coming soon. It's very similar to an active in several ways. Coming soon is marketable, okay? There's no restrictions on marketing other than showings, which I'll talk about in a second. But it's really just like an active listing. You can put up your sign. You can talk about it. You can make flyers, do your email blast, communicate with the world however you want with a few certain restrictions. But for the most part, it's very, very much like an active. It's displayed in the MLS. It is not hidden. It is as visible as any active listing. You can have saved searches, cards, hot sheets. That coming soon listing is not hidden at all in any way. Commission is offered because it's in there, it's live, it's for sale, so you have to have compensation in there. Now, the big bonus here is you don't get hit with days on market. You're going to get 21 days, 3 weeks of time on the MLS without accruing any days on market. So during that 3 weeks, you should be able to get everything done and wrapped up for that listing to be ready to meet the world 100%. You should be able to generate, figure out what the interest is. You're thinking about your price. You're thinking about, how many requests for showings am I getting? So it's good for you guys. If that's something your seller wants to try, it's here. It is limited in its distribution through the MLS because there has to be some difference, right, between the coming soon and the active for you to not get hit with DOM. What the limited distribution is on the MLS is it's not getting sent out to the big syndicator platforms. These do go into the IDX feeds. So if you're an agent and you have a website, you'll be getting coming soon listings. They're in there now, but it's not going out to the big portals. No showings are allowed. So here's where the rubber kind of meets the road on these guys. So if the rationale is, hey, we've got a great listing, we want to see what the buzz is, but it's not 100% ready, well, okay, then it's, by that logic, it's not ready to show. So no showings are allowed in a coming soon status by anyone, right? By the listing broker or otherwise. And again, 21 days is the maximum time limit you can have it in coming soon status. On day 22, the system will push it to active, okay? Let me blow through registered real quick and I'll take a quick pause for some questions and you guys let me know what's up. So registered, I've already talked about it on sort of the preceding slides. Registered is not in the MLS for purposes of the public marketing rule. If you're in registered, you cannot market to the public. Well, I mean, you can, but the consequences is that you will have to put it in coming soon or active within 1 business day, right? You're not live in the MLS showing up to the world. It's not displayed in the MLS. So these registered listings that you enter, no one knows about them, but you and the MLS and AOR staff, no one knows, right? It's just like if you had excluded something, we didn't publish those. No compensation is offered. That doesn't mean if you sell it off the MLS, you don't have to pay the buyer's agent. It just means that there's nothing in the MLS regarding compensation. No DOM, because it's not live in the MLS where it'd be a situation where you should get DOM. And it's not distributed. So again, they're top secret. They're not going to IDX, not going anywhere. They're completely behind the wall. Now, the last point, showings only to the listing broker and client. So this is very closely connected to the clear cooperation policy, right? Which says only public marketing is going to trigger the policy. So if you have folks who have signed the AD form with your broker's office in the last year and you show it or market it to those folks, you haven't broken that rule. They're not the public. So if you register something, register your listing, you can't publicly market it, but you can market to those clients or to those folks in your office, those other agents in your office. And again, the bottom 2 white boxes, very simple to do a registered listing, just to go in and put those few pieces of information. And as you see down in the bottom right box, no one can see the listings other than those folks there, the listing agent, the broker, the managers, and the MLS staff, and everybody can see coming soon. So that's a lot. I've done a bit of a data dump on you guys. So do you have any questions you want to answer, or should I just kind of finish up here? Well, we're at the last slide. There you go. So
I guess our mind's made up.
questions or feedback is the next slide. So what do you got?
Okay, I'm going to start way back when with Janet Dorsey, one of our favorite people out there. She's up in the Ventura Camarillo area, and she had a question saying, can you ask them to address when their other MLS systems will have access to registered status or flex MLS?
Right. Gotcha. Okay. I didn't realize we weren't an only matrix crowd.
Oh, you underestimate our reach.
I am deeply sorry. Yeah, the Flex system for you up there in Ventura, registered is sort of in a pending status. It's if I can cross my references, it's going to be a little while. We don't have a delivery date on the registered in Flex right now. Right now, we're kind of focused on the conversion that the Flex users are going to be undergoing from their former instance of Flex to now the CRMLS Flex, which is happening in a couple of weeks, is going to be a big deal. There's going to be a lot of effort and resources thrown at that, a lot of learning situations for you Flex users. So I wish I had a date for registered. We are dealing with FBS, the developer, and trying to get that on the calendar, but I don't have anything yet. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Okay, next question comes from Ruth. She says, coming soon on the MLS allows other agents to reach out and call. Is that considered marketing? I had a call to preview over the weekend and want to swing by with their client. I said no, but would this have been acceptable?
Yes, because marketing is allowed in coming soon. The only thing that's not allowed is showing. So in that particular fact pattern, it's certainly fine to make phone calls about your coming soon listing or to get phone calls. You can market it. But if someone calls and says, I love this listing, my buyers want to see it tomorrow, unless you're going to move it into active status, that's going to be a no-no, right? You're going to have to say, hey, we'll put you on the list. We're going to start showings at the end of the 21 days, and you can give them that date and start developing your showing schedule and go from there. But just to remind everybody, public marketing is not a concern when it comes to coming soon. It's only a concern when it comes to listings that are not in the MLS. Okay.
Sounds like Ruth did the right thing by not having the showings, but
Yes.
she was good to talk, so that's good.
Well, hold on. Let's clarify though too, because I think people will focus on specific words. So no showings, but what about previews? To me, that's a showing.
Yeah.
So let's hear from the compliance guy.
Yeah, and I'll even go further than that. Virtual showings are also showings, right? So any showings, previews, anytime someone is physically getting a look, whether it's through a media device or on the property, that look inside, other than like a video tour, right? So you have your video tour links, you can put that in there. But remember, a showing is a dedicated appointment with a certain person. And an open house is a dedicated time slot that's happening in real time. So anything like that, other than a static video preview, is going to be considered a showing by our department.
I think that that's a very important distinction to bring up, because that was going to be a question that I had, whether a virtual showing counts as a showing.
Yes, they do.
Nice try, Lisa.
Yeah.
Just wanted, for everybody else out there.
That's
I
okay.
know a lot of people who try to fit,
That's a great question.
square pegs into round holes. So we're
we talk
catching
about
on
that.
to them, and I know you guys are too.
Yeah.
Every week it's like, who's looking for the workaround? So, that was really important, because I think a lot of people would have said, but it's not really a showing. Yeah, it's a showing. So
Yeah, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck. Hey, if I could point out, when you're going to go into coming soon status, we have a special advisory form for you guys to use. The rule 9.3 that defines the coming soon status actually says that you have to have this form signed by your seller before you can go into coming soon status. That form is available on our website, or it's available in zip forms in the CRMLS library. The reason I point it out is because a lot of these questions that you're asking are answered on that form. So if you take that and you go through it with your sellers, they're going to really understand what coming soon means and doesn't mean for them going into it. So why is that important? Because you don't want your sellers doing something crazy either, right? A buyer's agent knocks on their door and says, hey, I've got these really interested, wonderful couple here. Can we come in and take a look? Let's hope that they've seen that form and they realize, no, I can't do that, but here's my agent's card. Call her or him and set up a showing. And you can tell your folks, hey, this is the date we're going to start showing. So if anybody asks you, let's tell them that. So keep it in mind, that form is very helpful and it actually is necessary. So we're not collecting them. We're not making more work for you in that way, but you should have it in your file.
Good to know. Let's see. We got a question from, first time caller, but longtime fan, Jeffrey Jackson. How are brokers notified when and what has been registered? Is it then available to just them on Matrix, or is any agent from that brokerage able to see it?
No, it would just be the broker, the listing agent, and perhaps the office manager if you have. In terms of like auto notifications, when one of your agents registers your listing, I don't know, does the system have that, Sarah?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, I guess there's a small chance I could be wrong, but the point is that the broker can go in and see all the registered listings. So if you have the broker wants to go in once a week or once a day and see what's going on with their agents out there, they have access.
Okay. And next question from Kimberly. If we share with an agent within our brokerage, the other agent would most likely share with their client. So are they then marketing publicly? And would we possibly be forced to change the status?
Well, I guess anything's possible. But, the thing is hopefully everybody's learning as we go, right? Just so you know, we've gotten probably 250 reports on CCP, clear cooperation issues. We've processed pretty much all of them, and we've only issued 3 or 4 citations, right? And so what's happening is that people are making corrections. People are learning. We're pushing an education phase on this, rather than issue any citations. And those were really only in the most grievous circumstances where the person just refused outright to cooperate or to put the listing in. So why do I say that? Is because when you're going to create hypotheticals of, well, what about this little thing and what about that little thing? We're going to be pretty fair with you guys. We're giving warnings on everything. We're not just straight up issuing. So speaking to your particular fact pattern, if that client of that other agent in your office had also signed an AD form with your broker, then that's not the public. If they have not, then they are the public. So that's really just how you have to view that. If you have people that you want to talk about your off MLS products with, your inventory with, get that AD form, right? Because that infers a relationship, a business relationship. The inference is that this is someone that you're working with. The odds that you're going to either try to get into a transaction or get into a transaction are reasonable. Right? This is someone who's been on your email list for 10 years, or that you sold a house to 5 years ago. This is an immediate kind of client relationship. So hopefully that helps with that hypothetical. If that particular client that's being talked to has the AD form with the broker, no problem.
And that's a really important point to make, because I think most agents do not get the agency form signed with the buyer until they're writing the offer. It's not required by law to have that AD form signed in California. It is in other states, but in California, it's not until you move into that phase of about to go under contract.
You went on mute, Lori.
Lori, you muted yourself. Hold it. Let's see.
Sorry,
You're back.
My fingers weren't fast enough. Okay, so it's good practice to, if you're not using a buyer broker agreement, which has the agency attached to it, use the agency agreement so that you can potentially benefit from this. And it protects you in other ways too. It might even protect you in a procuring cause issue if you have an agency agreement signed. So I think that's a shift in our practice that we should start doing. Like I said, in other states, they do the agency disclosure the minute they are introduced to somebody. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and as an attorney, I would really strongly support the use of it for that procuring cause case, you know, you don't want to get into that situation with nothing other than he said, she said, that kind of a thing. So yeah, and I believe the language in the civil code regarding the AD is that you're supposed to get it at the earliest practical time, right? So, and I understand that that might mean when I'm running the offer, but again, it might mean way earlier, you know, it's just good practice.
Absolutely.
Okay, our next question comes from MJ. No showings allowed. However, offers can still be accepted subject to interior inspection, correct?
Correct. Right. And this happens more often than I think we often understand. Like when I was a practitioner, we worked with a lot of investors and they were making offers sight unseen, right? All subject to inspection, dozens and dozens in a month. If your buyer loves a listing, then they can make the offer and the seller's free to accept it. And then you guys work it out, right? In terms of how the inspection is going to go. Remember, because once you go into contract, you're going to go into either active under contract or pending. And now it's not a showing, it's an inspection, right? So yeah, and these things happen all the time. So I did get a lot of questions when we were first rolling this out and people were getting upset like, well, if I see something go from coming soon to pending, I know that person's been breaking the rules. Well, that's not necessarily the case, guys, because you can go in subject to inspection and it happens all the time, and especially now, right? Sometimes you can't get in there. So yes, correct.
Perfect. Okay, and Jeff asks, what's to stop a listing from staying in registered status indefinitely until it's closed? And then he goes on to say, I don't see where it's really cooperation at that point.
Registered is not in the MLS. Right? So it's not about cooperation. Cooperation is putting your listings in the MLS for other brokers to see and sell with a guaranteed offer of compensation. A registered listing is not in those statuses. It is excluded, just to use the old term. So it's not in there for cooperation. And what is to keep them from staying there forever till it closes? Nothing. Nothing. If that's what the seller wants to do, they tell you, I want this excluded the entire time of this whole listing period. Go sell it in your office. Then you can do that, right? So long as you don't publicly market. So you sell it to that client that you've had an AD form with. You show it to them because that's allowed as well. You go into contract, and when it closes, boom, you put it in as a comment. Right? I mean, it's really just like an excluded listing. So I keep going back to that, but I want you guys to really, you know, key in on that.
And I'm going to kind of go back. It's not a question in the feed, but I'm having like a flashback back into the early 2000s, which was when everybody would have the exclusive writers on their signs, where it's like, okay, this is my listing and I can sell it. But if I have a, excuse me, if I have a sign out front saying exclusive listing and it's in restricted, but I'm still publicly marketing it,
You've publicly marketed, and now you're going to have to go in to be in coming soon or active. A sign is marketing. So again, if you're in registered,
practice is gone. So everybody knows
that's exactly right. That's the big change, right? So in all my clear cooperation presentations, I made sure people understand that. In the past, you could exclude and do whatever you want, right? That's what's changed. You can still exclude. You can't do whatever you want, right? So if you're going to have something in register, that's when you really need to be savvy and understand what public marketing is and isn't, and who is and is not the public, right? So it takes some getting used to, but, and again, these all came out within 6 months of each other. So I know you guys are still in shock, but you know, keep at it. It'll get clearer.
Okay, and MJ asked, how long can it stay in registered?
As long as the seller wants it there, or until you publicly market, which will kick you out of a register. Look, I mean, if you have it shouldn't be in there past the expiration date of the listing period, right? I mean, that's just sort of an inherent issue that you need to know as the broker, right? So if you had a 90-day listing and on day 120 it's still in there and registered, it's not really hurting anybody, but you should probably just know that that's not going to be able to be kicked from registered into active because you no longer have a listing contract. Otherwise, there's really no limitation. The system's not going to go in and kick your listing out of register. That's up to you.
Okay, let's see. Next question that hasn't already been covered. We have Janine asking, what about hold? I have a listing on hold. Seller is overwhelmed. I get calls daily for showing and tell them they can offer subject to or wait until it's active. Am I correct? How long can this seller be on hold? It's been quite some time now and agents are getting pretty upset with me.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so yes, hold is being used correctly by this agent, right? Hold is a status that you use when something goes haywire or whatever, and the seller needs a break. Now, you can still market, right? The rule is clear. You don't have to take your signs down. You don't have to take it off your website. You can still market it, but you can't show it. It's really just like coming soon without the 21-day limitation. In the past, pre-COVID, the maximum time you could be on hold was 30 days, right? If you needed to have more time on hold, you could go in before the 30 days and maybe extend it for another 30. Right now, due to COVID, we've taken out the 30-day limitation because some people are going to need more time. I mean, clearly, if the worst happens, you know, you've got, who knows how long it's going to be. So for now, the old 30-day limitation has been paused, and you can be on hold for as long as you need to until further notice, until the board of directors and the rules committee decides, okay, maybe the practical effect of this is over or it's seen the worst of it and we're going to reinstate the 30-day period.
Okay, let's see. Then I have a Danielle asking for clarification, which is, so a coming soon sign writer is okay under coming soon. Just double checking.
Yep. Yep,
Okay.
that's perfect. You can put that
Perfect.
sign, and actually, you know, the rule, the status definition of 9.3 for coming soon says that you should have on your advertising for a coming soon listing that it is coming soon. And so that's perfect. You know, where it's reasonable, right? So, and then we also ask that if possible, you have the date that's you're going to go active or when the showings are going to start. And it's just kind of helps people understand what they're looking at. We're not saying that if you have a sign out front and a coming soon rider, that you need to put the active date on the rider. I don't think that's practical. But yeah, you're doing fine if that's what you're going to do.
Okay, then we have another question. MJ asked, what is the violation if you catch an agent marketing a registered listing?
Well, if we catch them marketing a registered listing, they have a business day, one business day to put it in, right? And what we're doing right now is we're giving, the rule comes with a warning, but we're even going a step beyond that. We're sending out an inquiry and saying, hey, we noticed this, what's going on? Put it in, right? This is public marketing. And if they don't, we check in after one business day. If it's still not in there, we'll send the official warning. And then after one more business day after that, so this is kind of how we're doing it right now to give people some time to learn. If it's not in and you are one of the very few unlucky people who get a citation, it is 1% of the list price. No less than 500, no more than 2,500. Okay, so it's a sliding scale and it can be kind of hefty. All right. We have a sliding scale because we have such a large service area, not all median prices are the same. And also because vacant land is included in the clear cooperation rules. So if you have a $50,000 parcel, we don't want to hit you with a $2,500 fine, but it caps out at $2,500. So the rationale for that is, guys, that it needed to be a little bit more weighty than just kind of that cost of doing business that a lot of people just will absorb, right? I mean, I suppose it still might be a little bit like if you have a $20 million listing, 2,500 could be pocket change, but for most people, it's going to be significant, and we don't want that. So watch your emails. If you get a warning, put it in.
Well, on that note, the wonderful Sarah has to jump off. So we're going to give her a moment and we're going to come back to your questions. Jeff, do you have to run away?
No, I don't. I feel bad if I took your time, Sarah. You know, I never
No.
mean to
Oh,
do
no,
that.
no, we're all good. We're all, you know.
No, no, and this is good stuff. And honestly, I just wanted to, am I able to share my screen?
I can
Yeah, are
let
you
you
able to
do
give me,
that.
am I allowed? Okay.
Well, let me do it. Now you can.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to quickly share pretty much just CRMLS.org, because all these things that Jeff is covering are all available. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So if you go to CRMLS.org and you click on either registered status or compliance, you can get a copy of Jeff's presentation that he just did, the slide deck that he just covered. And then you have a ton of resources in here. So you have FAQs, you have all of our rules and regulations and pretty much everything. And I know this can get a bit overwhelming, but if you narrow it down on, you know, what you guys want to research, you know, it's all here, it's all within our knowledge base. So, you know, please take a minute to go there and take a look, because it's very helpful and really spells it out. And so if you were kind of feeling a little overwhelmed with some of the slides, this is a great place to go. And while I'm here, just, I guess, my shameless product plug, which Lisa always likes. So if you go into our solutions section, and you can see, for those of you who are not Matrix users, we do have some other resources here. And if you go in, you can take a look at pretty much all of the product solutions. Oh, and there we go. I'm clicking around. So you can go in and you can kind of look at all the products that we currently have available to you. We've been really focusing here in 2020, obviously with COVID, that's kind of changed our priorities as far as shifting to virtual training and some of the other things that have definitely bumped up to the top of the list. But here you can go through and you can see all of our mobile apps. We have a lot of marketing products, and we also have some additional resources. Lion Desk, I'll point out, because that's the CRM product that we have through CRMLS that I know with people, you know, having sheltered in place and working from home and maybe finding themselves wanting to get a little bit more organized. That's been a really popular class that we've been teaching, and a product that people have been kind of gravitating towards. And with that, I wanted to just go to, let me do one more spot. So our education tab on crmls.org. If you go in here, you can go and you can see webinars. We have constant live webinars that are occurring, which are really interactive. It's been great. The team's been able to kind of facilitate a lot of Q&A. And we also still, a lot of the associations, we're still doing virtual trainings for our local associations. And then if you're interested in requesting a broker office training, obviously virtual at this point in time, you can just submit a request online and we can get that scheduled for you. So if you wanted to layer that in with an office meeting or marketing meeting or something going on at your office, my team would be happy to attend that virtually. And on all those products I just showed you, they can cover those topics. So you just go in here and choose your date and your time, and then what type of training that you're looking for. So I will pass it back to Jeff, because I think the compliance stuff is much more important and interesting. But as from an education and product perspective, you know, hopefully we can be able to provide you guys what you need to better your business.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. You are just such a gem, you know, and there's so much education that's out there. There are so many products that are out there. And, you know, if you have any questions, Sarah is just, you know, so easy to reach. And I have to thank you for getting back to me. We had a question come up in another group regarding a certain, I don't want to call them a third-party aggregator because they're not, but kind of a hybrid brokerage that people think is a third party, and that they were showing commissions on their listings. And it was like, oh my gosh, you know, this company is showing buyer commissions saying, look how much money you're going to save. And I went to Sarah. Sarah got back to me immediately with, that was that brokerage's own listings that they were doing that on. So if any of you were following that conversation, it's not all of our commissions are being shown out there. It's only that brokerage kind of saying, look at the money you can save if you use us. But you know, so that's what that was. But I just love you, Sarah. You were just
Aw, I love you too. Well, thank you. And I do hear that a lot too with product. You know,
Oh, I
there's a
thought you heard
lot
that
of
a lot, that
product.
people loved you.
No, well, thank you. I'm feeling the love on this Monday. Thank you. And I just, you know, you make a really good point, and I do hear this a lot. And you guys have so many products, you know, it's confusing, and I get that, but I also think, you know, we're trying to cater to a very, you know, a big footprint of folks across the state, and some products work better for some than they do for others. And so for people to go in and even try it, you can't, you know, it doesn't hurt to try it and see what, you know, it's kind of like ice cream. What's your favorite flavor? And, you know, find a mobile app that works for you, and find a statistics product, and, you know, a CMA product. Find the one that works best for you, and just try it. And take a training and commit the time to, you know, to learn it to a point where you can make that decision. But I think you just narrow it down to where you want to improve, or what area of your business you want to focus on. If it's marketing, or if it's knowing the market better and understanding the stats, you know, we have products to kind of cater to what it is that you need. So just kind of start there, baby steps, you know, because I do know it can get a little overwhelming, but, you know, hopefully not. Hopefully you can just dive in and give one a try. So thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm sorry I have to leave. I don't want to.
Well, you can come back again sometime.
I got a couple more minutes.
Okay, well, let's see. I'll go back to the questions real quick. We got another one from Jeff. Jeff is really taking advantage of this forum. Good for you, Jeff. That's why I like you. Okay, so if you register a property and it magically appears in a private Facebook or Instagram group, which agents outside of your brokerage have access to, that's marketing, and it has to immediately go coming soon or active, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure I understand the hypothetical. That would probably be the listing broker who's pushed it out there, right? Because it would be weird if like some other agent knew about your listing, right? And we'd have to look into that. But presuming that, yeah, it's the listing broker's fault, it's registered, it shows up on Facebook or in the marketplace or something, which I have had happen many times already. Yep, that's marketing.
Happens a lot, I think.
Can you clarify, Jeff? I've had people ask if they don't put the address, is that okay? If they don't put the photo, is that okay? Can you clear that up for us?
I think I can. Look, if someone calls you on that and says, what's up, right? And you have a property to sell them, I don't care what you put in your ad, right? It doesn't matter that the address is not there, that there's no photo. Unless you have a fictional listing that you're advertising, then I think you have maybe some Article 12 issues under the Code of Ethics. But let's be real here, right? If you're promoting something, a house or whatever, and it's real, even though the address isn't on there, you are marketing a property, right? Let me give you this. The CCP applies to listings, okay? And only listings that are subject to an exclusive right to sell or seller reserved listing agreement. If you have an open listing, you can market and not trigger the policy. If you're brave enough to work without a contract and you want to market for someone, you're not going to have to push that into an active status, right? So keep it in mind. It does only apply to exclusives or seller reserved. But yes, if you try to get creative, we're probably going to view it as marketing.
Yeah, because we have a question in here from Lauren that you pretty much covered right there, but I want to just really clarify it. What if it's a true pocket listing, no listing agreement signed yet?
There you go. Yeah, you're not subject to the CCP at that point. That's just as clear as we can make it. I think at the beginning of the enforcement or the beginning of the development of the policy, it was considered that any advertising of any property, whether it was subject to a listing agreement or not, would trigger this. But that has since been very much made clear that no, if you're not subject to a contract, you can do what you want.
So like if your neighbor a couple of doors down says, gosh, I really wish I could sell my house. Boy, do you know anybody that wants to buy it?
Yeah.
You can then go out and put it out into these Facebook groups or whatever.
Yeah.
You're just living on the edge.
You are. Yeah.
But
a single party compensation agreement or something like that, it would be not, those wouldn't be subject to it either,
okay.
So
kind of like a one-party show agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Anything other than the exclusive right to sell or seller reserved is going to be outside of the policy.
Okay, let's see what else we've got here. Some folks think that if it's a private group, it avoids the MLS entirely, but they still mark it. Glad to hear it's not so. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay, we got another good one. Where would an agent submit their violation, and how long will it take for them to get notified that it was addressed?
Okay, we have, as Sarah was sort of showing you our website, if you go to the compliance page, there's a big red button that says report off MLS marketing. And the email that you can send these to is offmlsmarketing@crmls.org. So, I mean, you think about it, right? How do you normally report the violations? You click on the link in the listing, right? Well, there is no listing in this case. So we have to hear from you, right? You're the compliance people out there on the street. So what you definitely want to do, though, is have some kind of evidence, right? So if you have a copy of the ad that you screen snap, or if you took a picture of the sign with your phone, just put that in your email, and then we can have something to go on. So that's where you report it. Again, off MLS marketing at CRMLS.org. And we will get you a response that your report has been received and assigned to an analyst, I believe, within 1 day. I mean, my staff is pretty slammed right now, but we have a dedicated team of analysts on that mailbox only. And I believe our turn times are 1 day. Now, what'll happen is at the end of it, we'll send you an email that's been resolved, but we're not going to tell you the details because we have confidentiality issues. All right. But we will tell you if it's not a violation. We'll give you that. But we're not going to say, hey, great job, this guy got a citation. We're not going to say that. We're going to keep that stuff, confidential for you. But we're processing these. I mean, it depends on what the action is. We can get them knocked out within a couple of days. And we have to, right? Because that marketing, they have 1 business day to put it in. So we have to be on top of these ones for sure, which we are.
Fantastic. Laura, do you have any questions?
No, that's it. You covered so much, Jeff. I think, the best takeaway for me was looking at it from whether it's on market or off market. And then you know how to apply the rules. I think that is the clearest explanation I've heard. And I attended a few of the trainings early on. I'll admit I haven't attended anything recently because I felt pretty confident with what I knew. But some of the terms that you threw out there today, I'll be able to change my description of it. For instance, registered is not a status, it's a process. I really liked that. So thank you. Thank you for all the wonderful information.
Oh, it's fun. I am a compliance nerd. See, this was fun. People are thinking you're crazy, but no, it's good stuff. And it gives you it's more professional, right? I mean, you're going to excel in your business the more you know, and the better you are at navigating these rules. So good for you guys for having it, and thanks for letting me come on.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us, because this is where all of the nerds hang out. We proudly call ourselves the Nerdy Realtors, and for a purpose, because we want to uphold professionalism, because it can be in short supply. So we do appreciate that. I guess that we're pretty much going to wrap up. Lori, do you have anything that you want to tell everybody?
No, that's it.
Well, where are we going to be next week?
Well, Monday we'll still be here.
That's right. But after that, we're going to be at Woman Up.
Oh, yeah.
So
Not me, but okay.
So if you guys haven't registered for Woman Up yet, this is going to be interesting with it being all virtual, but at least you don't have to worry about being caught in your pajamas, because we're all going to be little avatars. So you can just come as you are. It's going to be really fun. And I think that There may be nerdy realtors speaking, maybe kind of, sort of.
You have to find out.
Have to find out. But we would love for you to come and join us at Women Up. And if you are, and you haven't sent me a photo or told me that you're going to be there, we'd love to put you in our Nerdy Realtor squad. And that goes for guys too. We have one brave guy, Leon Townsend. He's our only guy here. So we would love for you to come join us. We've got a very, very large table, and we don't want to exclude anybody. Becky Grant, what is Woman Up? I'm going to be talking to you, baby, because I don't know if we still can maybe wrangle a scholarship, maybe, kind of, sort of, but we can try our best. And Joyce Endo, if you want to be in that squad, I need your picture. So on that note, thank you again, Jeff and Sarah. You know, we've known you've gone off to internet land, but we so appreciate your time. And I think everybody had a great time here. Nothing but thank yous. And all we can say is thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Have a great week, everybody.
We really appreciate it, Jeff. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, see y'all later.
See you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.